What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and you're watching our college football channel. It's time for my Week 4 New Year's 6 predictions. Going to pick who I have going to the New Year's 6 Bowls. I did my playoff predictions yesterday, so if you missed that video, you can go back and check it out. I go in a little bit more in depth as far as the two playoff semifinals, but we'll mention those quickly. We have Georgia versus USC in the Peach Bowl. Georgia going undefeated. USC losing one game, but then winning the Pac-12 championship. So that's the 1-4 matchup. And then in the Fiesta Bowl, Ohio State versus Oklahoma. Buckeyes going undefeated. Oklahoma losing one game, but winning the Big 12 championship. So that would be the 2 versus 3 matchup. All right, now let's get to the rest of the New Year's 6 Bowls. We start with the Rose Bowl, and no change here. I still think Michigan will be the team out of the Big Ten, the next highest ranked team after Ohio State with just one loss. That'll get them into the Rose Bowl. I think Utah, they might have a couple of losses, but I do think they will be the highest ranked team out of the Pac-12 behind USC. So I've got the Utes here, Michigan versus Utah. Keep an eye out for potentially Oregon or even Washington maybe out of the Pac-12. We'll see if either one of those teams could possibly pass Utah. But I think this is pretty clear cut right now. This would be the matchup if USC does wind up going to the playoff. If it goes how I think it's going to go, we'll see Michigan versus Utah. We saw them play in the regular season a few years ago. I think that was the first or second year maybe for Jim Harbaugh. I can't remember a lot of details about that game, but that'll be a fun matchup there. We go to the Sugar Bowl. All right, how about a rematch? And normally you probably don't want to see a rematch, but I think we would like to see this rematch because we'd like to see Texas play a full game with Quinn Ewers and see how it plays out. I think Alabama will have just the 2 losses, a regular season loss and then a loss to Georgia in the SEC championship. They'll be the highest ranked SEC team remaining behind Georgia. And then I think Texas might be the team out of the Big 12. It's the man, I just don't know. I'm starting to think, or I was starting to think maybe a Kansas State could sneak in there, but then they lost. Maybe it's a TCU. I still think Oklahoma State and Baylor are good teams. I don't think that they're quite at that top 10 level. So if it comes down to, say, Texas and Baylor potentially, both of those teams would have a non-conference loss, but I think Texas, that loss to Alabama, would be a better loss. And I think the committee would look at Quinn Ewers going down in that game and all of that. And I just think Texas would get the nod if we had, let's say, a 3-loss Texas versus a 3-loss Baylor versus a 3-loss Oklahoma State. You know, if those 3 teams are all sitting there with 3 losses, I think Texas probably gets the nod, and they'll be the highest ranked team out of the Big 12. So Alabama versus Texas in a rematch in the Sugar Bowl. All right, the Orange Bowl. So you got to have ACC versus Big Ten, SEC, or Notre Dame. Notre Dame not going to be here, obviously, unless they just completely turn their season around. So I think Arkansas might be the highest-ranked SEC team. It kind of goes back to what I said last week. I think you're going to have maybe a few 3-loss teams, 2 or 3 3-loss teams in the SEC that are fighting for this spot. And I think because of their schedule, because they went out and played Cincinnati and BYU, that is going to be the difference. That's why Arkansas will be the highest ranked team, and that's why they'll get into the Orange Bowl. I was kind of leaning towards Kentucky, but they play on the road at Ole Miss. I think they might lose that game, and that could be enough to knock them down to 9-3 instead of perhaps a 10-2. But after beating Florida, definitely Kentucky is there. Tennessee could get there. That they have a great opportunity. That's going to be a really interesting to see who that highest ranked team out of the SEC is going to be outside behind Georgia and Alabama. And then Miami, I'm just winning the ACC championship, so that's going to get them into the Orange Bowl. I've got them with 2 losses. They lose a second regular season game, but then beat Clemson in the ACC championship. I'm sticking to that prediction. And then we go to the final bowl, the Cotton Bowl. So we have to have the highest ranked Group of 5 champion. I'm still going with Cincinnati. I think they are the best team. A lot of football to play. I haven't seen, enough of the Group of 5 to know that, to say that confidently, but I do believe that Cincinnati's a great football team. I think they're going to be the team out of the American to represent the Group of 5. And then Clemson. I think Clemson will lose a regular season game and then lose to Miami in the ACC championship, so they would only have 2 losses. So I've got Clemson as an at-large. Last week it was BYU. I didn't change anything about BYU. I still think that BYU is probably going to go 10-2, maybe 9-3, but I do believe that Clemson will be ranked just above them. And if you look at it last week, Clemson wound up in the Orange Bowl, but because Miami was knocked out of my playoff prediction, now that puts Miami into the Orange Bowl, and that bumps Clemson down to the Cotton Bowl, and that is why BYU got knocked out. But BYU definitely still in the running. Penn State potentially in the Orange Bowl. Watch for them. Could see a Big Ten team there. I definitely think they have a chance, especially after the way they played against Auburn. They've already got a win over Purdue. So several more teams in the mix. NC State could easily go 10-2 with their schedule. It's going to be an interesting race. The Big 12, I'm really curious to see how that's going to play out. Who comes in behind Oklahoma? So a lot of football to play. We're going to learn more and more about these teams and see how this season shapes up. But it looks like it's going to be a fun one. New Year's 6, not super predictable at this point, but these are my predictions heading into week 4. Give me your predictions. Who do you have going to the New Year's 6 bowls? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you for watching this video, and stay tuned for more here on the SG1 Sports College Football Channel.